Alaya McIvor has long been a community advocate, matriarch, and expert on MMIWG2S. But she hasn't stopped there. She's now created a Manitoba specific database of missing and murdered Indigenous men and boys. She says creating the list, which already includes the names of more than 250 community members, was painstaking and painful. But it was also a labor of love. Created at the request of her beloved aunt, who just died, Alaya McIvor wrote about her efforts in a first-person piece on our CBC Manitoba website now. I spoke with Alaya recently and started by asking why this database is needed.
Well, it was echoed through the community a few years back when I took on the initiative from family members as why isn't there a list? Why isn't men being recognized for the murder and or missing? And 2 years ago, I took on that responsibility and put it away for a while. And then recently, after losing my aunt in April, I kind of dedicated that list to her because she wasn't able to see the list when she was, here with us in the spirit world, and decided to conquer that list. And it was surprising. It wasn't surprising, but surprising.
Tell me about your aunt, because your aunt was the one who inspired you to do this. Tell me more about her and why she wanted you to create this.
Well, my aunt was 77 years old before she passed away this year, and she was our matriarch. She was our glue to our family. She had a lot of grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and it was important to give them a voice, but also keep in mind that my family has been impacted 3 times over on the crisis of missing and murdered Indigenous men and boys. So prior before my nephews were murdered, my uncle was murdered back in 1984. And I didn't know much about my uncle, Wayne, and just throughout conversations with my family, it was hard for them to kind of express who he was. But what I've learned throughout the conversations was that he was a family man prior before his murder.
You touched there on the family members that you've lost and the reason why you've also created that list. But who else is this list for?
This list is for families, and importantly for governments to take part and participate in action and giving families action and closure, not only closure, but helping them on every step of the way, right? In hopes that it brings social programming for men in this province.
Alaya, I can only imagine the amount of work that you had to do to work on a database like this. Take me through the process. I mean, how enormous was this effort?
Well, first but foremost, I think you got to take care of your spirit. You can feel the men around you and you can feel their presence while you're documenting. It's enormous. It's really enormous. And I remember putting it aside and pulling it back and crying and being angry, being resentful, but knowing that I needed to complete some sort of list was the most important part at the end of the day. And the numbers just kept climbing and climbing and climbing. And I was like, geez, this is a lot of men,
Mm-hmm. And how did you get through it emotionally?
Well, I have an emotional service dog, which he's always by my side, majority of the time. But overall, it was just the cries from the family members directly impacted to the issue of missing and murdered Indigenous men and boys. Seeing the large amount of family members coming together and not knowing the numbers is something that really drove me.
Yeah. And how are you doing today now, having gone through this and work on this database?
Well, I'm doing great. I take care of myself in my own ways, but there's still more work to be done, So there was also another report just released. That's something I'll be working on as a family member directly impacted to MMIWG2S+, which is a trafficking piece. So I did work on another list of missing and murdered Indigenous women and gender diverse kin. So I'll be revising that list in the next few weeks and continue on doing this list also.
Now, you wrote a piece for CBC Manitoba that you feel the presence of these men and these boys whose names you're documenting. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, it hits you when, sorry, it hits you when, young boys do not have an opportunity at life. One of the youngest victims that I had documented was 3 months old. And that's where it hits you and reminds you of the work that needs to continue to be done. That's what really drives me to do the work. But most importantly, having a list, tangible list, for families in Manitobans.
Now, where can people see or access the database that you've created?
So I'm just going to put this very clear. I have the names up on social media, but I don't have the data behind it associated to public access right now. So I'm keeping that confidential. But if families want to come forward, I have it on Facebook for everybody to see. My Facebook is open for people to look through the list and approach me via inbox, whether they would like to add to the list. And keep in mind, when I put the list down, one day it was, I think, 230 names. Within seconds, I was kind of 225. I was kind of hesitant to post it, but I had to, right? And within 30 seconds, I had a family member directly contact me. And then within hours, I had like 256 names up on there.
Wow, that's incredible. How does it make you feel to know that people are, looking at this or reaching out to you in this way?
Well, as a family member directly impacted, you are aware that families will reach out to you, but knowing that people know that you're a safe person to do that with is something different, and I get their struggles, I get their hurt, their pain, and to document it is such an honor, an honor to each family member directly impacted to the crisis.
Your aunt inspired you to do this. I mean, what would she think now if she knew that you were working on this?
It's something she'd be proud of to see. Something she would be very proud of, that her nephews and her brother, or her grandchildren and her brothers are on that list, and that it's visible for communities to see. So that was the important piece, and my efforts into that list are from my aunt, and my personal promise to her, and my commitment to putting together a list as such.
Alaya McIvor has created a Manitoba specific database of missing and murdered Indigenous men and boys. Now, for more on her story, in her own words, just go to our website at cbc.ca/Manitoba.